Welcome to Beyond Words, special edition. And this is why it's special, Omar, because we've
Mhm.
always talked about Beyond Words being a discussion group. That's
Yeah.
not the different thing, but what's different is we've only talked about movies and books up to this point. And we've had the idea of talking about music, but didn't know what album to talk about.
Mhm.
And then we decided, since it's the 25th year anniversary, I don't know the exact date, I should know it, but sometime a couple days ago, History, my uncle's album, was released 25 years ago. So you actually had the idea to do this show. You asked my opinion, and it's one of my favorite albums. You know, I was a teen at the time when it came out, so I could speak about more than just what the impact had. After the fact, I can kind of talk about, the mindset. I think a little bit and just a little bit give a little nuggets for each song more than I could the earlier stuff.
Mhm.
But of course, this is one of my favorite albums from my Uncle Michael, for a variety of reasons. It covers every genre of music from R&B, rock, to
Mhm.
pop, to everything, and talks about so many important issues that we've seen in today's world is still being discussed and still needing to be worked on. So before I give you the floor, Omar, I want to ask you, is this your favorite album from my Uncle Michael?
I would say yes, 100%, because that's probably the only album I actually uh, I was like there to kind of see it happen.
Mm,
Even I was probably 7 or 8 year old when it came out, but and I like the fact that it has some message in it. Like
yeah.
powerful messages, and of course the music videos. I love to watch music videos, and those one in those albums are great. Like they all different and they're all very powerful for sure.
So before we talk about videos, because
Mhm.
obviously my uncle was big into videos, I
Yeah.
want to ask you, and I'm going to ask also everyone who's watching, what is your favorite song from history? Let us know in the comment
Good
section.
question.
I'm curious to know what everyone thinks. Is it the ones that were singles?
Mhm.
Is it one of the album covers? Album songs? I will say what mine is, but I'm first curious to know what yours is, Omar.
I'll say Tabloid Junkie is my
Is it
favorite.
really?
Yeah, I'll probably say it's my favorite song of Yonko, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, 100%. Something special about that song
What
for me.
is it about Tabloid Junkie?
Well, first of all, without everything he says in the lyrics, because I actually didn't understand anything like he was saying at the time. Like, first of all, the verses, even if you speak English, I'm not sure you can understand what he's saying.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. But there was something very catchy to me, to my ears when I heard it the first time. The beat, the way the verses are like very, very sharp, and you can't really understand. And the voice is very like rough. And then all the melody comes back in the chorus, and it just is so powerful. And I really loved it.
And
And
and I
special.
sh- I should clarify when I'm asking, because History, of course, was a double album, and
Mm,
the first CD, or the first side of it, was more like a greatest hits,
mm,
and then the second was all new release music from my
yeah.
uncle. I don't. It's so interesting you say that. I mean, I do like. I like, honestly. I was just listening to it this morning, and I remember it, there wasn't a song that I didn't care for. There's not a song that I would skip through.
Mhm.
And what I love so much about, and this was cool because I got to see a lot from behind the scenes. I got to experience, not only my uncle in the studio, but my uncle in regular life, and to kind of get his mindset and to kind of see, as a youngster, you don't realize how much planning and coordinating he was doing in his mind while we're just hanging out in a room or watching a movie. But now looking back, I can understand and see some of when he'd ask a question, or when I'd have to ask another question, seeing his response and seeing him kind of daydream, I could see kind of, I'm old enough now to kind of piece it back to specific dates and times. It's a really cool. It's like figuring out a puzzle. And the one thing I do want to say is, at the time, I was in 95, I was 17, turning 17. So I was probably 14 to 16, 14 to 17 when he was making the album. And of course, my brothers and I were busy with our Brotherhood album. So it was interesting because although we were working parallel times in sometimes the same studios, we didn't really, he knew our music, but we didn't really know what he was doing. And he was very close to the chest with his stuff. He wanted it to be great before anyone heard it. So the point I'm trying to make is, like all of you guys out there, when I first heard these songs, it was polished and pretty much the same day you all heard it. I remember with the Bad album. I didn't know any of the Bad songs until my mother and we went to Tower Records and bought a CD. Obviously we could have gotten free ones, but my mom was that kind of person who wanted to go support. So we went and bought a CD and unwrapped it and played it just like all of you. And that was something that I enjoyed so much. That's an experience in itself. Sure, there were times where you'd hear some songs or hear some builds of songs, but for the most part, I heard it the same time everyone else did. And I remember thinking, he's just ahead of his time and he's just on a different level. The amount of care and precision in everything you hear from the first note to the last note of the last song is very strategic and very, looked after. And that is why I think even all these years later, the album still holds quite well. And I think it will for a long time,
Now, here's a question for you. Like when you listen to an album first, whatever album it is, you're going to go through it like the first listen. And there's obviously like maybe one or two songs that's going to be catchy to you and you're going to like the first listen. And maybe like years later, you're going to like the song you didn't even like at the first listen. Is there a song that goes for you like that in the album?
Not really. Not really, because what I was always mesmerized about with my uncle is every time you heard something, it sounded so fresh. Even if it was current at the moment, it still sounded fresh. Even if it was something that you didn't hear often, like, Childhood or Little Susie or Smile. Those kind of songs weren't really of that time. It wasn't like those are songs you'd hear on the radio, but he still had a way of making them sound fresh and cool and unique. Yeah. So I honestly, there's not many artists out there where I could hear an album and just really enjoy everything about it. And he is one that does that for me, and what's so cool is there's a purpose for each song. I know how my uncle was, and he was very meticulous about the purpose and the ordering and everything about it. And I'm just happy that, like I said, 25 years later, we're still talking about it. It's still getting so much love, and because he deserves it. He worked his butt off, and he deserves it.
I feel like it's kind of underrated album. Like if you look at the whole his whole like albums and stuff, to me, people don't talk enough about this one. They always go back to the first ones that are great for sure. But this one is like you can feel like through the lyrics and stuff, it's very personal to him. The subjects are still relevant today. Earth Song, he talks about that. They don't care about us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Happening today, So, and of course, all the music. To me, that's the powerful point. Is all the music videos around it, like Scream. Today, still, I think that holds up. Like the visuals are so good.
I actually remember being at that video, and
like you were upset?
Yeah, I was there.
All right, give the story.
It was at Universal. I guess it's called Universal Studios technically, but it was at one of the stage halls or stage rooms at Universal. And I remember, I know it got a lot of publicity at the time for being the most expensive video ever made. But I just remember, going there and seeing my uncle and aunt do their dance thing. Magic Johnson was there as well watching. And there was about, I don't know the exact number, but there's a decent amount of people just watching. And I remember after the takes, everyone would clap. And, it was just, at the time, I didn't think of it as anything different. And that's something that I wish I had the mental capacity back then to understand what was going on. I just saw it as my uncle and aunt dancing. I didn't see it anything. But again, that's without effects. That was, I didn't get out. I wasn't privy to see what the final product would be. But you're right. The video is still amazing. It's still cutting edge. And even 25 years later. And that's something I think my uncle was big on. He wanted to make sure that this stuff would last a long time, in every way. And I'm just happy that it's happening because it was so important to him.
We actually studied that music video like in school.
Really?
Yeah.
Like in regular school or in film school?
Like in film school. We study it because they were actually like saying you have to look at music videos because that's where people like do artistic stuff in the music videos. Sometimes it just becomes so cheesy, like 10 years later, 15 years later. And sometimes it holds, it's like it's still good. And when you look at it now and say it's still good, you have to understand why it's still good. What makes it like still good? So those were the questions we're studying in school. And that music video and some others came up. And, that says a lot.
That's great. I didn't know that.
And you saw it in color, by the way.
I guess, I guess I saw it in color. I don't know. I was lucky enough to be at a lot of the videos, but I just didn't know at the time the significance. And even if I look back, I was like, that's just my uncle. And I was more there just supporting and trying to just, enjoy the moment of seeing one of my favorite people, not just artists, but one of my favorite people do their thing, And I always was mesmerized by the effect and how nice he was to everyone. And how joyful he was, how he was always trying to, that's what always got me. It was beyond the dancing and beyond the final product. It was always his mannerism of creating.
Were you still surprised, like when you were on set and you saw like what was happening and when you saw the end result, were you still surprised by, the difference? Like, it's always different.
Yes and no. And probably more towards no, because like I said, everything he did at such a high level that he rose the bar on himself, and he was so meticulous and so detail orientated, not just with music, but in everything. So even upon leaving that video shoot, if there was a conversation about a current movie or about the way a street looks or the way a store looks, he could give you details on ways to improve it that would just open your mind, and I found that incredibly amazing even then, now and even then. So
cool. We have Rachel, right?
Am I losing you guys or are you losing me?
Now I can hear you.
Hi.
Hello, Rachel.
Hi, how are you?
It's TJ. I think TJ.
Hey, Rachel.
Can you hear me?
Am I back?
You're back, Chisel.
Okay. How are you, Rachel?
I'm good, how are you?
Good. It's
I'm like
good
really
to see
nervous,
you.
but I'm okay.
So go ahead. Rachel, what's your favorite song from history?
Probably Stranger in Moscow. Like I just feel like it's so deep and personal, and it's like it expresses how we felt. I just think it's a really special song.
Yeah. That's like I said, actually, if we're going to talk about movies, but videos that impressed me, that was one of them. I love that movie or that short film with the rain effect and all that good stuff. That to me is also one of my favorite Uncle Michael videos because it's just beautiful,
Yeah, it's really good. Because I think that was probably one of the first songs which really got me into a really big fan. And I was like 9 at the time. I just watched music video like over and over again. Like I was just so fascinated.
Yeah. And let's say non-history. What's your favorite overall MJ song?
Well, it's actually unreleased, but it's On the Line.
Okay.
I really like it.
That's cool. That's
Yeah.
cool. I
I can't
don't
really pick a
I'm
favorite
trying to
song now.
think. I'm sure I've heard it a couple times, but I'm not too familiar. You know it better than me. I will say that. But Omar, did you have a question for Rachel?
I think you said it all.
Yeah,
So no,
yeah.
no, I have a
Asking
question.
what's your favorite. Is there anything else you want to say about history or my uncle, Rachel? Now's a good time.
Well, he's a really big part of my life, and I love his music, and I love him as a person, and like I think people who are like non-fans or just kind of like regular fans who like are not big fans, they just see him as the king of pop. Like they don't really see him as like Michael Jackson, a person, like what was in his heart, and like I really do see that. So
I love it. Well, thanks for joining us, Rachel, and thanks for sharing that. I think you picked a great one with Stranger in Moscow.
thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome, and take care. Okay, have a good week.
You too.
All right.
you. Bye.
Rachel's awesome. She's awesome. Stranger in Moscow. That's one we were kind of neglecting and forgetting about, but that's another song. So I still haven't told you what my favorite song is. But again, it's hard because I could do Stranger in Moscow. I could say They Don't Care About Us.
Does it change? Like
You know which one I also like that wasn't a single was, well, there's a couple, but I love DS. I remember when it first came out, I used to play DS all the time and just jamming to it, and it wasn't really the words because I'm not, I don't listen to every words all the time. I first listened to the groove and melody, and I remember loving DS and just the vibe it sent, and I thought it was great, and I also thought it was kind of, that's what differentiated my uncle because he could do the R&B stuff so well, and he came up doing that R&B stuff. So to say that he still does rock better than most rockers is something that is amazing to me, because if I try to sing rock, it wouldn't sound anywhere close to where it should, and he just had that ability to do it all. And I think DS is a good now, and Come Together, but DS even more is a good example of that.
Who produced that song? Do you know?
I don't know, but let me look it up because that is one. I have the list right here in case
That
you ask.
song kind of does sound different from all the other ones, like even like sonically,
Yeah.
So maybe another producer who did it.
Well, it's written and produced by my uncle.
Oh, okay.
But what also is cool is that it features Slash and the amazing guitarist from Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
And that's another thing about this album is it just featured a lot of, he was big on getting the best of the best working on his stuff. So even from engineers to producers and players, it was, if you look at the credits, it's pretty much like the best of the best. And these names are still holding up, still so respected in the industry, that I think that also contributes to his sound. But yeah, it's like you said, Omar, and I didn't give enough credit to history as well. I mean, I loved it. I'm not saying I didn't like it, because I don't get that twisted. But when people ask me, because I often get asked what's my favorite song or album, I never really think about history. But doing this has maybe not changed my mind, but it's brought the race a lot closer. Because like you said, it seems like every song, even Money, I remember hearing Money over and over, and then also the words still ring true about that. And I just think he was privy enough to experience enough to kind of be able to articulate in a very simple but powerful way so many different messages and themes in his music. And I think that's another reason why they hold on so well. Like you said, They Don't Care About Us can play right now and mean a lot, and most of his songs can. So I don't know. I have nothing but love and respect for this album and my own.
What do you think about the cover, like the visual art cover? What do you think about
It's cool. I think it's great.
Do you remember when you first saw it?
Say again?
Do you remember when you first saw it?
I don't remember where I was or anything like that, but like everything, he always had a way of, because what was the album prior? Dangerous. So his covers, he was getting very into that artistic, you know, look, and I love that look. You
Yeah.
know, look at our cover from Obsession. It's got that kind of artistic vibe. It's not just a picture. And he started to go that route, and I personally enjoy that route because it gives more depth, in my opinion, to the art. And you know, I love this album. I love the cover. I'm looking at it as I'm talking in the corner. So
Because I'm thinking like maybe at the time, this is like in the mid 90s, 3D wasn't like as great as today, you know, as big. And looking at the cover right now, you can actually see even the lighting, the way it's shaped, the angle, and everything is perfect.
yeah,
And just that, you know, again, shows how good every aspect of that album
yeah.
is.
Yeah. We have another guest ready to go, but do you want to play or show a segment of a video?
Let's do it. What do you
Which
have?
one?
Stranger in Moscow, right?
Sure. Let's see if this works. Yeah, it's
I have a question for you.
yes.
What is actually happening in this music video? Like all
What?
these people. What is the story? Did you understand the story?
Omar, why are you asking me that? That's a question I should be asking you. You know, here's the problem. When you ask me those questions, oftentimes I'm not paying attention to the story. I'm just looking at my uncle and being mesmerized by personal experiences I shared with him and just smiling. So I'm not paying attention to what's going on. I remember, you know, certain aspects of it, like the coin flip, thinking that was so cool, and the coffee spill at the end, or that was at the end of the segment. You know, all that stuff was that slow motion vibe was he was just creating and doing different things than we'd never seen before. And that's something that I know you value and something that I think just separates him. You know, he really was about that from the beginning, you know, and I think this album is full of videos. I'm looking through them that did that had a special quality about it.
Yeah.
So how about you? Do you know what it was about?
I do not. Well, I do understand he's walking in like in normal speed, and the people behind him are in slow motion. So I guess it kind of gives you the like he's like alone, and you know, like when you're alone, you feel like everything's moving very slow, even if you're moving fast and stuff. So maybe that's what he was going for. And
Yeah.
I guess like they were capturing the same moments but with other people. You know, like the girl when the coffee just goes over the table, she's like just, you know,
Yeah.
but like very visual. I can say that. Like it's so visual that you can't even concentrate on the story.
Yeah. And like I said, that's it's hard for me to answer that because another thing I'm thinking about the time period because it
Yeah.
was always a dream of my brothers and I to like be out there like my family, you know, to have music videos and to have songs out that could play on the radio. And Stranger in Moscow, I don't know what video or song it was, but it spent a lot of time in Europe at the time. And you know, we were getting a lot of love, and so it wouldn't be a surprise to see this video and then see one of our videos right after. And it wasn't like it was a family thing. It was just we were just both doing quite well at the same exact moment. And that's for this whole album. I think History came out just a couple months. It came out in June, and I think Brotherhood came out in November, December. So this whole album it brings me to a whole nother level from personal. And we were in Europe, and he was in Europe a lot, promoting it. So our paths crossed, and we got to spend a lot of great moments together while the world was enjoying this stuff. So it's hard for me because it brings me back to just the golden time.
What's funny is that actually, I'm just Scream and this Stranger in Moscow are in black and white, and I think that gives it even more timeless vibe to it. You know, when we did Insomnia together,
Yeah,
you were very strong on the black and white. I remember because
absolutely.
actually there's the color version out there,
Yes.
and you were like, no, we should stick with black and white because that's timeless, and like in 10 years, it's still gonna hold for sure. So
Yeah.
I guess you have the same vibes with those two music videos.
I do. I just I don't know. I just love it. Let's get our guest in. Lena,
Hello,
Hi,
Lena.
how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Happy Father's Day.
Thank you. Thank you. Question. What is your favorite song from the History album?
Man in the Mirror.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
So that's my favorite song too. But if I'm gonna have to push you to guess or say a favorite song from the second disc, what would you say?
Oh my God. I don't know.
Take your
Stranger,
time.
Stranger in
Stranger in
Moscow.
Moscow?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. And what is it about Stranger in Moscow that made you say that?
Oh, it's everything. It's the video and it's just the song in itself, you know. It's I don't know. It's just a good song.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think he said somewhere that when he was writing it, he was in a hotel room, and like there was loads of fans outside, but he felt alone still, you know. So it was just something. Yeah, I don't know. I think he
Yeah.
just.
That is true, because I think a lot of people felt that how could he be alone, with so much love, but it was quite easy, and I can kind of experience that somewhat. But the thing that was different for me and my brothers was, A, that was our first time around, and B, we had each other. So we always had people that we can talk to openly about things how we felt, where he didn't have that as much, and he always had to question, being the most famous person on the globe at the time, and he had to always question whether he could trust someone, and I think that's what led to that, and being backstabbed and being lied about and talked about over and over. I think he lost a lot of trust, and when you lose trust in people, you that's one of the results. You find yourself being more alone. And it's incredibly sad and unfortunate. But I think that's where a lot of songs like "Stranger in Moscow" come from. And that's why when my brothers and I would be with him, we just wanted to have fun. We could sense that, and we didn't want to talk about music or professional stuff. We wanted to just have fun. However that was, throwing pillows at each other, making jokes, watching funny TV shows or whatever. We just wanted to have fun. But
Yeah, I think everyone just wanted something from him always, you know. So it was just hard for him to probably trust anybody. Like.
absolutely. Okay.
Just,
Oh, Ms. Anything you wanted to ask, Lena?
yeah, I think the live is not up anymore. Like people are having issues looking at the live. Like it just went down for some reason.
I broke it.
No, it wasn't. Is it
No.
down? We're still recording, so I'm sure it's
Okay.
on it'll be rebroadcasted back, right? Hopefully, people it'll come through the proper way.
So, Lena, my question to you would be: do you remember where you were the first time you listened to that album or any song of the album? And can you describe where you were and how you
Yeah.
felt?
Actually, it's a funny story. Like I was 12. Well, I was 10 when it came out, but I remember back. I was actually babysitting for a neighbour down the road, and she had the CD, and I put it on and I listened to it for the whole night, and it was just like I loved it. I fell in love with it. And if I was to remember back, I just remember that specific moment when I put on the CD.
Did you go to any of his concerts by any chance?
No, I wish I did. But no.
Yeah, that history show.
Yeah.
That history show was a whole nother experience for me. Like I said, we always wanted to be musicians. We always wanted to be just like our uncle. So when we got to see him perform at the history concerts, and we'd been to even as early as the Bad tour we were at, but that history tour was like no other. And I know he performed throughout Europe in it, so I'm curious to know if anyone else has went. And I think you're right, Omar. I think it's all frozen, but I don't know. Oh, okay. Some of us have it fine. So we see.
So, which show did you go and see, and how did you feel? Like, were you more backstage? Were more like in the show? How was it?
I know we saw it in the Netherlands, and I want to say Spain. I probably saw it like 4 or 5 times. I don't know if we saw it in England, but definitely Netherlands, and I want to say definitely Spain. I don't have the best memory, and at that time I was just going from place to place. But I remember just going, and here's the thing, because we would always be on a high from our own shows, you know, so we were doing our own concerts, and then, you know, thinking we were doing so well, and then I don't know, we'd go we'd go to see his show, and then we kind of learn what really doing a real concert was about. So I remember going in and thinking this is going to be fun, and then coming out saying we got a lot of work to do, you know, and he's on a whole nother level, but obviously being proud as well. But he just went all out. He wanted to create experience for everyone who came, and that was something that was really big to him. Like his music and like his art and like the videos, he wanted the shows to be perfectly done. You know, he was big on that. So if you were working with him, you had to be right. You had to really want to be great, and you had to be able to be challenged and challenge yourself into doing the best work you could up to that point. He was big on that. So, you know, and I think it shows.
You could see when he was physically exhausted and he still put 110% into it.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. So
But did you take like any tips or tricks from watching? Me? Yeah. Well, yeah. Lena, did you take it? Yeah. Did you take any, like when you're watching a show, like me, if I'm watching a music video and I like something, maybe I'll be inspired to use it for something else. Was it the same for you watching the show?
I think so. You know, I was listening to, you know, I will say this. I was listening to some of the songs, and when I heard, which one was it? This Time Around, Money as well. But this time around, I was hearing it, and it reminded me of a song we had did. And I never heard the resemblance, but it reminded me of a song that 3T did in the Lost album. So he was always influencing us. And again, it was us being influenced by him. And, you know, it just goes to show you that there was no escaping that. We were big fans, of course, as well. You know, and I think although we were his younger cousins and our nephews that were always around him, we were still fans of his work. That's what we wanted to be, and he was at the top of his game. So he always influenced us. As far as shows, he would give us some tips, you know, about the flow of a show and ending it with some strength and with a sing-along song and in a positive note. And the visuals, you know, he wanted people to go away with something that they can visually remember. There's others, but you kind of put me on the spot where I can't recite them. But he was always never close to the chest with his information. If you asked him a question, he would tell you, you know, and that's something, or at least he would tell us. And that's something that I appreciate about him. You know, he wasn't one that would say, you know, he may make a joke about it, which I can hear him saying, but he would always want to help us.
Yeah. So, like, what would be watching the show? What would be your favorite part? I'll ask Lena at the same time. I'll ask you both. What would be your favorite part of that show, and why?
I always liked the intro. Just seeing the reaction, because he always came out with a bang. He always came out with some strength in a surprising way. That was big to him, and he'd always come out in a very, I don't know, he just built up the anticipation. I remember all the collage and then the brace yourself. I remember that. And I remember just the intro was always there, you know, and people would lose their mind because they were so excited and he delivered. So I'd always remember the intro and the outro and the ending, you know, but there's so many different parts, from the Billie Jean dancing stuff. There's just a lot. Beat It and all those great songs. So there was a lot.
Mina.
I don't know if we ever saw him in concert.
No, I've watched it on YouTube or DVD. But yeah, I think the best one was where he came out and he jumped up and like everyone just went mad, and then he turned to the left.
Yeah.
The reaction was just ridiculous, but it was
You know,
amazing. Like he didn't have to do anything, he just had to like look, and everybody would just go crazy.
Yeah, it was amazing. All right, Lena. Well, thank you for joining. You have a great rest of your Sunday and a great week, and it's good to hear your voice. And thanks for joining us on this edition of Beyond Words.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Lena.
guys.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
So, Omar,
Yeah.
I don't think we talked about the favorite music video. We showed it, but did we talk about it?
I don't think so. What's your favorite?
I'm curious to know your favorite music video from history.
You know what? It's maybe it's a hard one. I'll probably go with, and that's actually the first music video I saw of him in that time period, would be They Don't Care About Us in Brazil. To me, that would be my favorite because of the energy, and I remember seeing this on TV, you know, and at the end there was he was just dancing with the kids and stuff, you know, and the drums, and that was amazing to me. I was like, this is some serious music video here.
What was it about it, Omar? Was it the colors? What was it?
I think the energy, you know, because there wasn't any storyline in this one. It's just like the performance, like in a country with all the people around him, and he like, even the way he's dressed, he's like with that red T-shirt, and very simple, you know, nothing fancy. In Scream and everything, there's a lot of stylist, but in this one is very like simple, very raw, I guess. I remember one scene where he's in the middle of the crowd and someone jumps on him, like a lady jumps on him, and he falls down, you know. And I think that was very interesting that they kept it in the final edit, and just the global energy around this music video makes it, to me, the best one of history.
Let's watch a piece of it.
All right.
Oh, I should say that's just going to be a picture. This is not the music video, but this is a screenshot from the music video. But like you said, it's very simple, and I don't think I've ever, actually, maybe a couple times, but it's funny because I don't think I've ever seen my uncle in jeans, in blue jeans.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably what a lot of people are saying too, is that it's very it was very different than what he would normally wear and how you'd expect him.
It just felt like he came out of his house and just like, I'm just gonna go and dance and do some stuff.
Yeah.
My jeans, you know, and I liked it. What was your favorite?
I'm gonna give mine, but before I do, let's have Alex join us. Hi, Alex.
Hey, Alex.
Hi.
How are you? I know you are in England, right?
Mhm.
Okay. How's everything going in England?
Lockdown is like lifting right now. It's not as bad as it was at the start of the year, but we're allowed to go out. But it's hard to explain. We're allowed to meet up with people, but like social distance at the same time.
Okay. Curious to know, Alex, what is your favorite song from the History album?
Okay, this is like, it's sort of Blood on the Dance Floor history in the mix, but Ghosts, the short film, I love that.
Okay. What is it about Ghost? Because I remember watching Ghost and loving it, but I've always felt it was never appreciated the proper way, and I have my ideas of why. But what is it about Ghost that you love? The film.
I don't know if you know, but I'm a Michael Jackson impersonator myself. I like dancing a lot, and I think the choreography's from Ghosts, and like the acting's like, there's something about it that I love.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do. You know, we have Emily on the comments saying I love Ghosts too. What about overall? What's your favorite MJ song overall?
You put me on the spot.
Now you know, by the way, how it feels for me when I get asked these questions. I sometimes I don't know, and it's hard to answer. So, do you need a minute? Or are you good?
I'm gonna say "You Rock My World."
One more time. I didn't hear. I'm sorry.
"You Rock My World."
You rock my world. Okay. Yeah, I love that one too. I love that one too. It's another cool video. Well, Alex, thank you for Omar. Was there anything you wanted to ask, Alex?
I'll ask the same question I asked everyone. Do you remember when you first heard this album and where it was, how you felt listening to it?
I must have been like 3 or 4.
And you remember?
It's hard to remember, but I must have been about 3 or 4 when I first listened to it. I can't remember anything else.
Sorry, good.
Yeah, but it's a classic album, and I love hearing it because I'm gonna make the guess that you are younger than the album, so it actually makes me feel good to know that, you know, even you, who was born after this album was released, can enjoy it and get a lot out of it. And again, that's something I think my uncle would be so happy about, and he'd be smiling down right now knowing that you're enjoying what he created. So, Alex, thank you for joining us, and thanks for supporting my uncle. And real quick, I do want to ask you one more question, because you say you impersonate. What's your favorite song to dance to of his? When you're doing your dancing?
I'm based around like Dangerous Era, so I like doing Dangerous Era and Human Nature.
Okay. That's so cool. All right, well, I'm gonna come next time I come to England. If you're doing a performance, you have to let me know. I'd love to stop by and watch.
Okay.
Is that cool?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you do them a lot, or do you just do them at home? What do you do?
I do them at home at the minute. I'd like to do performances though.
Okay. Cool. Well, Alex, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Alex.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Oh, Mizzle. Let's see. It looks like we're back up and running. I don't know what happened on the Facebook end, but we're back up and running from the live stream. I think so. Maybe not. But it's time, I guess, for me to say what my favorite video from the History album is.
And before you say it, let me ask you this: is it a video that changed through time, or is it still the same one as 20 years ago?
When you say the same one, you mean the same edit?
No, like let's say 15,
Gotcha.
20 years ago, did you still like that one? Has it changed through time?
It's the same song. I know what you're saying. It's the same song. And it's, you know what it is? And it's so tough because I'm looking at all the screenshots from his videos. It's not easy to pick which one's my favorite video. But what I always go with when I'm in this situation is the message. And the message of this song was, to me, one of the most powerful of the album. And although, they don't care about us, Stranger in Moscow, Scream, You Are Not Alone, Smile, Childhood. I'm trying to think what else had a video, or at least a visual component. I can't think of any other ones, but I'm sure I'm missing a couple. But Earth Song, the strength and power of Earth Song is why I will say Earth Song, because it was, again, you had a lot of artists who were doing popular music, singing about love and relationships and trying to hit the charts that way. 3T included, and my uncle had already done that, been there, and was able to hit the top of charts with messages.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that is just shows the hold he had on music in the industry, that he can release songs such as Earth Song and it can go #1 in however many countries it did, and be loved and respected the way it is. And he had many songs like that, including Man in the Mirror, and Heal the World, that were bigger messages, yet he had the ability to make them popular and #1 on charts. And it's something I haven't seen since, and I think will be, it's not an argument used a lot, but I think it's one that should be used a lot to speak on how powerful he was as an artist. So I would say Earth Song. It's just too powerful. I think it's been one of those songs where it makes us think, and we have to do better at protecting the earth. And I'm happy he made this video, because still to this day, I think it's quite powerful. Should we watch the clip?
Yeah, let's do it.
It's just powerful, and what I didn't know what I at least forgot was that Earth Song was a 6-minute and 50-second song, and it didn't feel like that. It felt like he was telling a story, which he is, and it just builds into something that's quite emotionally grabbing. And I'm looking at Wikipedia, so don't quote me on all this. Don't hold me to these facts. But it says the first recording session for that song was 6 years earlier, of June of 1989. And again, I think that's just a testament to who my uncle was as a creator. He took his time and wanted things to be just right, so that 25 years later we can enjoy it. And I would say Earth Song is my favorite video. And again, a song he wrote and produced, this time with David Foster and Bill Bottrell. But Earth Song is at least my favorite video from the History album.
Do you remember how that song was received at the time? Like, we know today that's very relevant because of everything that's happening on the earth right now. But 25 years ago, how did people perceive it, like this message?
The song went #1 in many. I remember him saying Earth Song went #1 in more countries than any of his other songs. I don't know if that's just something that's sticking in the back of my head. But so obviously it was received well. Whether it had the social component, was it on top of people's discussions? I don't know that. I was 17 years old. When you're 17, you're not really looking at the world at big, I don't think, or at least most 17. At least I wasn't. I do remember it raising some ideas and opinions, but it was one of those things where it needed to be, But my uncle, I don't know. We talk about things like that outside of the music, so I can't really tell you if it was holding on that way. Maybe our viewers can, but I can't tell you if it was steering a conversation in a particular country.
Yeah.
Anything else, Mizzle? Anything else we should be answering?
I think we're good, Jizzle.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you guys for joining. Beyond Words, this was, again, we're going to try to do more music albums, but this was our first one, and we wanted to make sure the first one made sense. So we discussed the History album 25 years ago. From this week was when it was released. It's one of our favorite albums from my Uncle Michael. Just in general, it's one of my favorite albums. If actually it was the album I would say was my favorite album, because you would get both sides. You get the greatest hits as well as the new stuff. But even with the second disc of just the new songs, it's an incredibly strong album, and I'm happy it's still being loved today. I want to thank everyone for joining. Mizzle, thanks for suggesting this. And it's always good seeing you. You've been busy, which is a cool thing. I know you've been safe, but I guess I'll be calling you in a bit because I have a couple questions for you. But
I'll just say one last word before I forget, because my memory is not that good. Just sending prayers. We wanted to do that to Aaron Smith, that lost her grandfather today, and that was supposed to join us.
Thank you, Omar, for saying that, because, that's important. All right, everyone, we are going to take off. We love you guys, and thank you guys for all your support. You guys be safe.